You can just mute yourself as well, just in case.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the BIBF's first virtual Ramadan Majlis tonight with DePaul University and Khaleeji Commercial Bank. We're delighted you could join us tonight for interesting insight into the challenges and opportunities that the post-COVID era can present. Amidst the pandemic, organizations tend to forget about planning for the future, but tonight's Majlis is a reminder for us all that setting the right platform is of utmost importance. Tonight's lineup of speakers will shed light on these challenges and opportunities. Just a note, unfortunately, Dr. Ahmed El-Sheikh, our director, will not be able to join us tonight due to a family emergency, but he sends his warmest regards and wishes the proceedings of this webinar the very best. Ahmed Naeemi, the head of digital transformation and project management, will give us a briefing about the BIBF. We then move on to a quick welcome from Dr. Tom Donnelly from DePaul University, and then we move on to our keynote speaker and DePaul alumni, Mr. Sattam Algosaibi, the CEO of Khaleeji Commercial Bank. Thank you all once again for your attendance tonight, and over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you so much, Amal. Good evening, everyone, and Ramadan Mubarak to you all. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I would like to thank first and foremost Dr. Thomas Donnelly from DePaul University and Mr. Sattam Algosaibi from Khaleeji Commercial Bank for being with us tonight as well and speaking at the DePaul virtual Ramadan Majlis. Just to start, I'm going to actually share my screen so that we are going to present a brief about the BIBF. Just a second. Perfect. So basically, at the BIBF, Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance, we've been in the market for around 40 years so far. When we are affiliated and governed by the Central Bank of Bahrain, we have actually trained about 360,000 students so far, and we are so proud of that. That not only we trained students in Bahrain, but we are actually training students from around the globe. So a lot of individuals know us for training basically in Bahrain, but we are actually a global institute that we deliver training in 64 countries. We've actually delivered, we do deliver training for around 600 plus programs that we have. And we have a global trust from around the world. So we work with the World Bank, we work with the Amazon Web Services, we work with many institutes that around the globe to offer professional qualifications and programs. Just a second, I think. These are the countries that actually we deliver training at. We actually deliver training even as far as Japan, and a lot of people don't know that in specific areas like Islamic finance, we actually reach to Japan to deliver certain trainings. And that talking only about a year back, just prior to the COVID situation. Our board consists of seasoned C-level executives chaired by His Excellency Mr. Rashid Maraj, who is the chairman of the Central Bank of Bahrain, and represented by another 12 C-level CEOs that actually sit on our board. The BIBF is going to move to a new premise, inshallah, by the summer of this year. This is basically the look of the new building. It has been in construction for the past year and a half to two. It's a reality. The building is finished. It's a seafront building with a state-of-the-art premise and classrooms. This is a look into the inside the building, how it's going to look. The classrooms are fitted by the state-of-the-art technology, as well as we're going to have 300 plus student auditorium and many other facilities. At the BIBF, we have about 6 centers. So we have the banking and finance, Islamic finance, digital transformation and project management, insurance, leadership and management, and the academic studies. And in these areas, basically what we do is that we focus on a number of offerings. If you see the inner circle, we look at short courses, we do executive education, master classes, professional qualifications. When I talk about professional qualifications, basically we offer professional qualifications from every sort of institute around the world, CFA, CPA, PMP, anything that you can think of, literally we have it at the BIBF. And at the same time, we have some simulation training programs, and we do a lot of customized training as well for corporates. In the academic studies, we work with a number of universities, cross-border universities, and DePaul being one of the basically we work with them in a postgraduate degree, and we have had a very long relationship with them. I just had a talk with Dr. Tom, and I think we have been offering the cohort, the 17th cohort now. Just before I conclude my session, just of introducing BIBF, I want to talk about the 3 career timelines that we normally have. When we start working, or we study and start working, normally our parents, our grandparents, they used to have a sort of a linear line where they go study, if they study, and they find a job, and they stay in that job throughout their life. That's called the Generation X, basically, until they retire. Then what we have is we have sort of the Generation Y, or the newcomers to the job market. They actually study, they go find a job, but then they study again, and they find another job, and probably 5 to 6 jobs throughout their life time, basically. And then the third level, what we see now, is the Generation Z, where when they come on board, they study, but at the same time, they do a project on the side. They have a startup. They find a job, but then they keep jumping from one project to another. So you see number 3, which is sort of a scattered timeline sort of thing. And now why I'm focusing on that, post-COVID era, where we're speaking about the opportunities and threats in this session, actually fast-paced that level onto all the generations. Nowadays, with the post-COVID situation, unemployment rates have increased drastically. And with that increase in the unemployment rate, there are skills that are there to always stay, as per the Economic Forum report. This is basically a list, 10 skills for 2025 that are in high demand, talking about analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving. These are skills that are actually needed nowadays in the job market. And at the same time, I just want to showcase this screen as well, where what are the increasing demand jobs for basically from now till 2025. As you can see, a lot of it is tech related. When we talk about data analysis, AI and machine learning, big data specialists, it's a lot. The top 10 is focused mainly on the digital elements. Now, the decreasing demand in terms of jobs, you're talking about data entry clerks is being replaced by AI machines. Administrative and executive secretaries replaced by digital assistants. Accounting, bookkeeping replaced by blockchain network, and so on and so forth. So this is basically a brief just to set the scene prior to actually getting into the session today. I just want to highlight these aspects. I want to leave you with a quote just before I introduce the next speaker. I really like this quote. The world is changing very fast. Big will not beat small anymore. It will be the fast beating the slow. And with that, I'm actually going to conclude my session, and I'm going to introduce the next speaker. We have the next speaker will be Dr. Thomas Donnelly. Dr. Thomas Donnelly has been the interim dean of the Driehaus College of Business and Kilstad Graduate School of Business at DePaul University since July 2020. Prior to the interim dean position, Dr. Donley held a series of administrative roles in which he helped shape DePaul's business college program offerings and operations. In his previous role as associate dean from 2018 to 2020, Dr. Donley oversaw academic operations at the college as well as its graduate degree programs in Bahrain and international business study abroad. Dr. Donley is also a professor of economics and at DePaul and holds a PhD in economics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Dr. Thomas, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much. I just want to add, and that was a very generous introduction. I would like to note before I start my prepared remarks that I have also taught and visited Bahrain over a dozen times, and in total spent almost a full year in country in the kingdom, and have enjoyed my stays on every attempt. Good evening, everyone. I hope you, your families, and your colleagues are all well. As Ahmed noted, I am Thomas Donnelly. I am currently serving as the interim dean of DePaul University's Driehaus College of Business and the Kellstadt Graduate School of Business. Tonight, I am joining you from Chicago in the United States. Right over my shoulder here is an aerial view of the city of Chicago, and that is Lake Michigan, much like your Gulf, but Lake Michigan is a freshwater lake, and the university is set just off the lake in the city of Chicago. It is my pleasure, truly my pleasure, to join BIBF and Khaleeji Commercial Bank in welcoming you to tonight's virtual Majlis. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the academic partnership that connects our DePaul Business School in Chicago and the Bahrain Institute for Banking and Finance, BIBF, in Manama. This collaboration, our collaboration, offers Gulf professionals access to DePaul's highly respected MBA, a Master of Science in Human Resources, and soon, again, a Master of Science in Finance. All these degrees are offered at BIBF by DePaul faculty. I have had the pleasure of teaching economics and statistics classes, both in these programs, since the inception. I have relished supporting the success of this collaboration in my former role as the college's director of international programs before my appointment as the interim dean this academic year. I'm pleased, I could not be more pleased. I'm very pleased that Wei Lin, Professor Lin of the School of Accountancy and MIS, has agreed to take on the role of Director of International Programs this year and is working with you to advance our success. We at DePaul are extremely proud that more than 700 graduates from our Bahrain degree programs are now part of the DePaul Alumni Network. I want to send a special greeting to alumni joining us tonight, including our distinguished keynote speaker, Sattam Algosaibi. We are currently running our 17th cohort for the MBA program, the 12th cohort for the MSHR, Human Resources, and as I noted, intend to relaunch the Master of Science in Finance program with our 8th cohort. The MSF originally ran in Bahrain from 2008 through 2016 and graduated a total of 160 students. These graduates of that program are in executive positions across Bahrain and in other parts of the Middle East. Tom Berry is with us tonight. Tom is the chair of the Department of Finance and Real Estate. So Tom will be ready to take some questions about the program, but generally speaking, the curricula of the relaunched MS in Finance is designed to prepare students to succeed as strategic finance managers and includes a focus on industry innovations, including fintech. As Ahmed just noted moments ago, COVID is having an impact. Technology is having an impact. The type of jobs that the MS in Finance prepares folks for are the growing types of occupations, not just in the Middle East, but worldwide. We at DePaul are looking forward to greeting the new cohort of MS in Finance students for the program's final course, which we intend to convene in Chicago, just adjacent to that body of fresh water. That class will feature experiential learning, company visits, and speakers from the finance community that surrounds our campus in downtown Chicago. Like your institutions, our university has faced both challenges and opportunities in the year plus since the pandemic began. Personally, I have been in my office downtown Chicago less than a dozen times in the past 12 months. There have been challenges to working remotely. The business college, the Driehaus College of Business, has offered classes online both in Chicago and in Bahrain since last spring. The certainly abrupt transition to virtual learning was initially very challenging for both instructors and students, and the programs we offer in Bahrain were not unique in that regard. But let me note that one of the positive aspects of this experience is that we have greatly expanded our faculty and technological capabilities to teach business engagingly in a range of modalities, from in-person to in-line, and a number of modes that combine the two. Our expansion into this virtual world has also allowed us to connect business leaders, alumni, and academic partners around the globe for thought-provoking discussions like the one we hope to have tonight. Today, hope is on the horizon with the rollout of vaccines around the world. We look forward to returning to in-person learning in the new academic year, including plans to resume in-person classes at BIBF's new facility this coming winter. I also look forward to being there in person to congratulate our newest DePaul BIBF graduates and to reconnect with some of my former students and a number of alumni of the program the next time we hold an in-person commencement ceremony in Bahrain. Tonight, we are pleased to welcome a remarkable alumnus from our BIBF MBA program as our keynote speaker. Sattam Algosaibi is CEO of Khaleeji Commercial Bank. To this role, he brings more than 22 years of senior level banking experience, spanning some of the most critical years for the banking sector in Bahrain. Sattam has seen firsthand the evolving economic and regulatory environment. He has developed an in-depth and practical understanding of Islamic and conventional commercial banking best practices. Before joining KHCB, Sattam was CEO for Bahrain Development Bank Group. Prior to that, he spent over 12 years at Kuwait Finance House Bahrain, BSC, as an executive manager and the head of the corporate banking group. He is a board member and chairman of the executive committee of Seif Properties. He also serves as vice chairman of Capital Real Estate Company. He also serves on the boards of Bana Al Bahrain BSC, Lama Real Estate, Gulf Holding Company, and the Gulf Real Estate Company. Sattam is a board of trustees member of the Ibn Khaldun National School and sits on the board of INGAZ Bahrain. That's a nonprofit organization aiming to prepare and inspire the youth of Bahrain to succeed in the global economy. Sattam holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals and an MBA degree from DePaul University. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Sattam Algosaibi. Sattam?
Thank you, Doctor. I'm truly humbled by that introduction. I think the DePaul alumni would have been enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate the invite from BIBF. We at Khaleeji Commercial Bank and myself personally are always delighted to associate ourselves with BIBF. And we thank you for tonight's gathering. I'm also especially delighted to reconnect with DePaul faculty. It's been quite some time, and even though we've been out of touch, however, I assure you that the experience that I went through during my MBA in DePaul, Bahrain, is something that I always look back at and I remember. And I think that it has added tremendous value to myself. And I'm also very happy to say that DePaul over the years has established a very recognizable name by all employers in Bahrain. And this is why I believe that over the years, this program has managed to continue to flourish and continue to produce talent for Bahrain. So thank you for that introduction. Getting into our topic for today, I thought about this for a while, and I decided to take a somewhat unconventional approach. To start with, we are all talking about a topic we have been living through over the past couple of years, or a year and a half. And I cannot start this session without highlighting the remarkable reaction that Bahrain has managed to put in place to manage the ramifications of the COVID pandemic, starting with very bold decisions that were meant and targeted at safeguarding the economy, safeguarding the financial sector, safeguarding the entrepreneurs and the clients, followed by the bold decisions related to healthcare and the provision of the perfect environment for people to feel safe and to continue to operate. I don't want to restate some of the obvious things related to how Bahrain has responded to the pandemic and what was included in such stimulus, because today the focus is on post-COVID. And with that fast approaching, developing a mindset that allows you to identify opportunity is far more important than listing of opportunities and threats. I believe we need to have capable resources and institutions that are equipped with a framework and a mindset that helps them deal with this time of rapid change. And I say change in bold underline because we haven't seen a time where adoption of change has been so possible and wouldn't face as much resistance as in normal years. So my unconventional approach, I would like to start with an analogy, which I think really reflects the situation we are living today. If you look at Formula One racing, which is car racing basically, and you look at, as those cars are going through a race, you have people who are ahead, who are leading that race, you have people in the middle who are jockeying for position, and you have people who are trailing behind, and each one is limited with their resources, with their capabilities, and their strategies can only take them so far because the race is on and everyone is overwhelmed with what is going on. So it is very difficult to change strategy, very difficult to introduce change, and let alone introduce change and find adopters for that change. And then all of a sudden, a big accident happens in that race, and the safety car comes out. And the safety car, for those who don't know, is basically a car that leads the pack for a few laps until that track is cleared and until it is found to be safe again for racing to continue. And those laps, those safety car laps, can be 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, as many laps as needed for that environment to be safe again. What happens during those safety laps? And what do drivers do? That is exactly the time when all the drivers pile up behind the safety car. And the people that were out in the lead no longer have the lead because everyone else is piled up behind them. The people who were trailing way behind are all of a sudden getting a glimpse of the leader, and they are breathing down their neck. The level of opportunity that arises in such situation is very different from the opportunity that is there when the race is ongoing. And what happens during those safety laps is everyone looks at what they've been doing before the crash and what they plan to do after the crash. I believe the world today is driving behind the safety car. And I believe institutions today, I think, Ahmed, you mentioned it in your quote. The big is no longer big. And that is simply because the playing field has been leveled by this pandemic. And anyone who has been trailing can, with the right idea, with the right opportunity, challenge the biggest players who have been leading the crowd. And anyone who was leading and developed that sense of comfort that they have a cushion behind them are now waking up to a new reality that tells them that big is no longer special. The fact that you were leading doesn't mean anything, and things can change overnight.
We've seen it also, sorry to cut you off, Sulaiman. I think we've seen as well with a lot of fintech companies that are coming on board and actually challenging certain major banks as well in terms of how they operate and how they work.
Absolutely. So having said that, I believe today we talk about change with a different appetite, with a different sentiment. Even though change is always a topic that is part of any strategy that is drawn by anyone, even though opportunities and threats are repeated year on year in boardrooms, I think this time round is different. It is different because of the context in which it is coming. It is different because of the extent to which change is possible. And I would like to mention a few examples just to prove how the current environment is different from what it was like a few years ago. We have in Bahrain the electronic fund transfer system, the EFTS, and within that there is something called Fawri Plus, which offers immediate fund transfer capabilities for users. And believe it or not, this is an offering that was available 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And if I go to back to the year of launch of the service, in that year, 4,800 transactions took place. 4,800 in that year, amounting to 1.4 million dinars. It took Bahrain and customers and banks 5 years to go from 4,000 transactions to 6 million transactions, which is in 2019. So in 2019, we've recorded 6 million transactions, amounting to 542 million dinars. In 2020 alone, the number of transactions was 47 million, going from 6 million, which took 5 years to reach, to 47 million in a single year. And one could argue that this was an idea in 2015. It was an opportunity in 2015. It was listed on someone's list of opportunities and on someone's list of threats in 2015. It could have easily been reshelved in 2017. The environment today is different. People's willingness to adopt change in dire circumstances is very different. And going back to the mindset I was talking about, whenever anyone in any institution is going through a brainstorming session or a strategy formulation, and they talk about opportunities and threats, they need not to discount things that were tried in the past, because there are certain things that did not work in certain times. But today, in the current circumstances, with today's mindset and with today's appetite, things would be completely different. Working from home is another example. If we had mentioned anything about people working from home, 2018, 2019, it would almost be labeled as ridiculous. People would question productivity, people would question people's ability to deliver, and people would question whether technology can handle it. Today, in the midst of this pandemic, people switched to working from home at the blink of an eye. Many found it to be more productive and more efficient, and many institutions found it to be a great cost-saving mechanism, because they all of a sudden needed much less space for people in their offices. And you can continue counting such examples. Electronic bill payment has doubled in the last year. Again, you can still pay in cash. But in the current circumstances, people are pushed across the line, and they are, in a way, incentivized, or the pandemic, with all the doom and gloom it has brought about, it has brought about some blessings as well. And those are people realizing that there are certain offerings out there, and there are certain technologies that can literally change your life. Now, having said this, I think I've established the fact that today's ground is a very fertile ground for change. And the approach to opportunities and threats will be very different. Now, under safety car conditions, those things are working, and those things make sense. And if I were to establish a business today, I'd say electronic payment does well. I'd say working from home is great. I'd say outdoor sports is another area that's picked up tremendously. Outdoor sports, outdoor recreation. We all of a sudden developed local tourism. All of those are great, and they've proven to be very successful under safety car. We need to identify what are the trends that will continue when the safety car goes in and when we resume racing. Electronic payment, who is likely to go back to cash payments? Very unlikely, and I'm sure many of you would agree. I don't remember the last time I handled cash, and I cannot imagine a time where I'd need to leave the house carrying cash. Do I think post-COVID people will continue working from home? I think that deserves more thought. Maybe some. Maybe it will make sense for some institutions, maybe not others. This level of analysis, this level of thinking, this open mind of challenging the norm and challenging what is happening today, and not just believing that what is happening today is meant to continue. Yes, we do believe that there is a new world order in place. However, it is up to us in our institutions to decide what we decide to go back to doing the way we did before, and what we decide to adopt from everything that's being thrown our way. And to do so, it cannot be just a gut feeling. Today, with everything going digital, the availability of data is unprecedented. The ability to analyze data is also unprecedented. And very few are doing it. But those few are the ones who will have the ability to clearly decide what their next move is immediately after the lockdown and immediately after the safety car goes in. If I were to throw out a question right now saying that what if we hear right now, as we are in this majlis, that a cure for COVID has been identified and we are going back to normal starting tomorrow. No more lockdown, no more travel bans, no restrictions, no vaccinations required, and it is business as usual. How many of us would go back to doing things exactly the way they did them before? Only 18 months ago. And how many, I'm sure many of us are just nodding no, but how many of us know exactly what they will continue adopting and what they will and what they will not? I don't think many. I believe this mindset and this way of thinking is essential. It is a bit philosophical, but I believe that facts and figures are important. Data is important, but it is also very important for us to take a step back, zoom out, and attempt a philosophical approach to the matter. I think how we handle things on the personal level is as important. I think over the years, we've all established our own principles and what is important for us in life. We have all filled our jar of life with our important rocks, with our less important pebbles, and with our least important sand. But we found it quite difficult to change what we filled that jar with. Coming into this pandemic is like someone has picked up your jar and spilled it on the table. And we are all getting a chance to rearrange our priorities and rearrange our principles, what's important for us. And many of the things that we used to use as excuses for not being able to deliver, not having enough time, being swamped with calls, obligations, invites, etc., are not there anymore. And you have a choice today to decide whether you want them to be a part of your next day or not. And again, I go back and say, this can easily be a casual discussion over coffee. You get back in your car and you're watching the numbers of infected and the number of deaths and the number of vaccinated and getting swamped with looking at the safety car and looking at the lights on top of it and not knowing what to do and just waiting for the safety car to go in. I don't think we should get sucked into that. I think we should minimize our media exposure, and we should self-reflect, and we should seriously, as individuals and as institutions, pay very close attention as to what we would do tomorrow if this announcement was made right now. This is what I'd like to say. and I would like to leave some room for any comments, questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Busleiman, for your insight and for highlighting these really important topics. What I wanted to ask you from the discussions that we've had so far, do you think corporate organizations will be able to rearrange their priorities? I mean, corporates, not not normal people, corporate organizations. Would they be able to rearrange their priorities in terms of profit, processes in the post-COVID era?
I think the corporate world in general, with much more corporate governance, much more regulation, has become, to a certain extent, much better prepared for unexpected events. Now, when I say unexpected events, I do not include a pandemic that rocks the world. However, I think we have been blessed with the fact that our government and some other governments have managed to stabilize economies, allowing corporates enough time to realign. Now, we are talking about this 18 months into this pandemic, and I believe that 18 months is a long period, and it is a long enough period for corporates to address the current situation and to plan for the future. Is everyone doing it? I don't think so. I think many people are sucked into the day-to-day of it. Many people are sucked into the administrative part that comes with dealing with basically firefighting on daily basis, restructuring facilities, postponing, that is in our industry, and similar things in other industries. And that is, I believe, that is dangerous. I think people are required, you need to do that, but at the same time, you need to zoom out and you have to address tomorrow.
Exactly. Planning.
Tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. That's the main idea why we were when we thought about the main objectives for us to highlight or to shed light on the importance of planning for tomorrow, rather than getting sucked into the day-to-day day-to-day challenges of the pandemic at the moment. But inshallah, looking hopefully into the future, we want to see a world that is prepared for post-COVID. Ahmed, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, sorry, somebody wanted to ask a question. I actually wanted to say one thing now, as we are in the post-COVID, well, we're hoping for a post-COVID. So far, it's still COVID ongoing, but if we look at the opportunity that COVID created, one opportunity is basically, like you rightly said, Busleiman, which is basically having employees now, or employers are comfortable with employees working from home. And not only being productive, they are actually putting longer hours. And as per the statistics that we see and the surveys that we're doing, employees are actually happier being that way, staying at home and doing their jobs, and it's less politics, less aspects. Now, when you have this sort of a hybrid aspect of employees working from home and employees that are at the office, what is sort of your management style in leading such a hybrid team? What are sort of best practices that you see as best to apply in the workplace, and how to actually ensure that the organizational culture is maintained?
I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. And I don't think working from home is something for everyone. There are people that can be more productive from home, and there are people that cannot work from home. And it is very important for institutions to allow people to identify themselves and to understand whether they are capable and is working from home an advantage for them or not. The other thing is in our culture, the human interaction is extremely important, and the emotional intelligence, interacting with people, being able to discuss an important topic, being able to read facial expressions is a big disadvantage for people deciding to stay behind the screen. Mm-hmm. Now, for certain type of jobs, for certain functions, it is ideal, and for people who find themselves more productive, it makes a lot of sense. But it is not the more the merrier, for sure. I think there is a perfect fit, and there is a right equation for every institution. And as people go back into business as usual, you will be able to strike the right balance, right, as to how many people come back and how many people stay at home. Today, the main driver for people working from home is safety. We need to work under conditions where safety is no longer a concern, and then find the right balance as to what serves the best need.
Got it, Sulaiman. One aspect as well is we have in Canada, the US, the European part, and the US part, basically that sort of culture of working from home is actually more or less common. I don't know, maybe Dr. Tom can actually also shed light, maybe. JP Morgan Stanley. I have individuals that work actually in these organizations. It has been like years that they have this sort of policy in the organization where they have the flexibility of working sort of 3 days a week from home and 2 days from the office. And their work sort of is more objective based rather than being in the office and spending certain hours, say 7-8 hours at the office. I don't know, Dr. Thomas, maybe you want to shed a bit light into that and give us a bit of your view.
Ahmed, thank you. I mean, first off, let me note that not everyone has the luxury of choice of working from home or providing their services in person and in the flesh. A significant percentage of economic activity requires a physical presence. So when we talk about having this luxury of choice of remote working and hitting the optimal point, the sweet spot on how we mix our staff, we're fortunate, and we're primarily talking about service industry type of work. So having said that, and with that frame, I think what we need to recognize, and excuse my dog, please, what we need to recognize is that worldwide, we've had an immense amount of technical innovation, and the rate of change in technology is accelerating. And that acceleration has provided us with an awful lot of disruption and opportunity at increasing rates. And what happened in the past year was an event that moved us forward about 5 years in 12 months' time. The disruption that occurred, the adoption of technology that occurred over the last 12 months was immense. Today is tomorrow. Okay, this is not 2021. We're actually in 2025 when it comes to how we're interacting in the workplace. And post-COVID, soon, I hope, post-COVID, that rate of change is going to continue to increase. The change is not stopping. We have just gone through a singular event where we had an abrupt shift, about 5 years progress in one 12-month period. Well, let's be very clear. change is not stopping. And what we have seen over the last 50 years is increasing speed of change. So, Sattam, I love your analogy to Formula One and the warning lap and the warning track. And what we need to do now is not just take stock, as you noted, and deal with the emergency, the crisis, but we've got a plan for reopening post-COVID. And what we really have got a plan for is increased flexibility and the ability to innovate, because this change is just coming faster and faster. And people's preferences for how they consume our services and our goods are changing dramatically as well. So it's all about open-mindedness, ability to innovate, and your flexibility in your business model. That's who's going to survive. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. We've got another question that talks about that's asking about the banking sector. Maybe I'll address it to you, Sattam. Do you think that the banking sector will relook into the type of products and services provided post-COVID?
I think the banking sector is a sector that is primarily driven by customer needs. The banking sector is a service sector, and the majority of products that are offered by the banks did not reinvent anything. They are mechanisms that are put in place and tools that are put in place to fulfill a need for the customer. And I don't think we've had a situation where it's been more a client's market than it is today, especially on the depository side. The customers are gradually spoiled for choice, and the bank that is not able to keep up will suffer. Now, the basic products continue to drive the traffic. So there are some anchor products that continue to drive the traffic in the banking sector, like your mortgage finance, for example. So most people tend to do a big part of their banking with the bank where their mortgage is, because their salaries get transferred there, and thus a lot of the other products end up being there. But this does not mean that banks can enjoy the luxury of not coming out with improvements and new products. But those products, I believe, will continue to serve the existing needs that have always been there. The combination of when finance meets telecom, for example, when your bank is on your phone, when your telecom services are very much related to your online banking, it is the convenience. I think the area of convenience is an area that can see a lot of improvement, but not strictly at the product level.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We've got another question about mergers and acquisitions from Russia. Do you think mergers and acquisitions activity will carry on after COVID? Or are they going to be more in frequency?
I think COVID gave us more reasons to consider mergers and acquisitions. I mean, mergers and acquisitions came around because with increasing regulation, with increasing requirements, small banks faced challenges to conduct business, faced capital adequacy requirement issues, and therefore it was deemed the way forward for institutions to consolidate and create bigger institutions where they can cut costs and bank larger transactions and take on more risk and more banking activity. With COVID, that only magnifies the need. COVID has introduced more challenges, and I don't think in any way that belittles the need for further mergers. But I say that keeping in mind that this does not mean that every institution needs to merge. You need to know why you're doing it. You need to know what is it that you're going after. There is nothing wrong with institutions deciding to go after niche markets, to continue being nimble, agile, and have the ability to react.
Yeah, and innovation. I mean, innovation.
And innovate.
Yeah.
So I think there will still be a drive for mergers, but I do not believe that it is the only way to go.
Thank you so much, Bousleiman. I'd like to ask Dr. Tom now. Doctor, what do you think of innovation, and how will innovation drive change in the post-COVID era? What do you think of that?
I think you're muted, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I was working on that. I actually think that innovation and change are synonymous. There's going to be change. If you choose not to innovate, it's not going to be a matter of consolidation. It's not going to be a matter of success. It's going to be a matter of how quickly you fail. I think innovation is a consequence of change. I think innovation also drives change. All it takes to disrupt a sector is one actor walk in with a successfully innovative model. And as Sattam pointed out, with the digital payment system in Bahrain, at that point, the rules have changed and change is required for survival. So it's very simple. This is not a choice. Change is continuous. So we have to innovate if we want to stay vibrant and provide our service.
Thank you so much. Ahmed?
Yeah, Mr. Sattam, you've actually spoke about the outdoor sports just a little while back. Out of curiosity, it has nothing to do with the opportunities and threats. There was a hype in terms of a surge, actually, in terms of the people going on those bikes or motor bicycles, basically outdoor bicycles. Were you part of that hype or not? Just to break the
well, I come from a family who are very much into cycling.
Yeah.
My brothers have been a part of it long before the pandemic, but now they have a lot of friends all of a sudden. So no, I think it's interesting. It's interesting to see how people have gone back to basics. Tennis courts are full. Tennis was out for a while in Bahrain, and all of a sudden, it is one of the most popular sports. Cycling, running, all it needed was for people to be told they can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
And it opened up this whole, variety of outdoor sports opportunity. Now, post-COVID, the gyms open, the cinemas open, the malls open, restaurants open. Will people cycle? Will they still go for the game of tennis? Yet to be seen. I think people need to decide for themselves. I personally have found certain things to be unbelievable. and I will not go back.
Sticking to the basics.
Yes, absolutely. And those businesses, I'm sure that they have a lot of thinking to do as they place their orders. Just at the beginning of the pandemic in Bahrain, the people's financing installments were halted, and electricity bills were paid by the government. People were at home, they weren't traveling, so there was a lot of discretionary income sitting in their pockets. And believe it or not, many of the recreational goods that were out there were completely sold out. And I'm not talking about cheap stuff, I'm talking about things that are expensive. Luxury goods, jet skis, boats. And you'd go to places and you'd see them completely sold out. And you'd think how a simple change just completely redefines the way things are. And no wonder Saudi continues to lock down. Saudi has developed a whole segment, a whole industry revolving around local tourism. And all the money is being spent in the country. I think the day they open up, many of the businesses there will be quite disappointed, because they have seen sales like they've never seen before. All of those things are things that need to be addressed and need to be thought about.
Correct. Actually, that brings us towards the end of this session. But going back to that quote that I mentioned, which is "big will not beat small," and by the fast beating slow, brings us to an interesting story I've read maybe about a few months back about a teenage kid that was working in a fast food chain, and it's a real story that I've read over the news. Working in a fast food chain, but all of a sudden, when the COVID situation hits, he immediately thought of what is the one thing that individuals will need when they are staying at home and all that. And he started his website and basically selling those gym equipment. And all of a sudden, this teenage kid that works in a fast food chain is a millionaire, and he made millions, and he spun off his business to many other businesses now, and he's no longer working in any of those. He has his own companies and whatnot. But from a simple idea of capitalizing on an opportunity that came on, but going very fast at that and not waiting for
Absolutely.
checking and all that, which is quite impressive.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So anyone else wants to make any closing remarks? Dr. Tom?
No, just thank you for welcoming me to your Majlis. It's always a pleasure to interact with my BIBF and Bahraini colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Busleiman, for joining us today. We're really honored to have you as our keynote speaker tonight. We've really enjoyed your insight, and the information you've given us today is invaluable. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our guests who joined us this evening in our first virtual Ramadan Majlis. We thank you all for your time, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen.